So I'm the last speaker for the day after a whole 2 days of very insightful presentations about connectivity. But here I am talking about the other side of the table, the usage. So, the last speaker talked about his experience in terms of the apps he used. But for many of you, if I had put a jamming device in this room since yesterday, many of you would not have come back today because we're that dependent. I know because my laptop went crazy and I've been feeling crazy since yesterday. But this is the situation for many students around the world. We estimate that half of 6 million schools are without connectivity. That means when we talk about AI, online classes, interacting with others, this is all Spanish or alien to them, really, because they've never seen, they can't imagine. Their world is limited to what the teacher says. If teacher doesn't come to school that day, there are no classes. If teacher doesn't know, they will never learn. And this is what we see as an opportunity, not a challenge, but an opportunity for us to change. We want to make sure that we reduce that digital divide, because when your neighbor is unhappy, you will never have peace. So making sure every child has access to information, opportunity, and choice is very key to us. I come from Uganda, and I visited a refugee camp some few years back, and I was asking the children, what do you want to be? Midwife, nursery teacher. And only one told me they wanted to be a pilot. So I asked the others, why not a doctor? That's what's needed in our community. So their dreaming is bounded by what their community knows. Here comes Giga. So Giga is an initiative between the International Telecommunication Union and UNICEF. And you might think, ITU, UN Digital Organization, UNICEF, child rights, what do they have in common? All of us are looking at ensuring no one is left behind. That is the tagline for ITU. We want to ensure everybody enjoys the benefits of digital transformation. And UNICEF wanting every child to make sure that they enjoy their rights. So what does Giga do? Giga comes in to see that we work with governments and get every school connected to the internet by 2030. Yes, ambitious, right? But who says it's impossible if we have all of you here? So what does Giga do? In many countries, a school's location will be defined based on the village. It's in that village. That's the name of the place. So what we come in to do again is work with the Ministry of Education to make sure that the geolocation of every school is identified so that you can map it. If you don't know what the problem is, you won't be able to solve it. So the first point is locate every school and where is it? Is it connected? If it's not connected, how can you address the connectivity? So we come in. We have 194 countries that are member states of the ITU, and none of them is without connectivity. They have some level of connectivity. So we look at, are they connected within the existing infrastructure? If they are not, how can they be connected? Is it with fiber? Is it with cellular networks, microwave point-to-point, or satellite? We don't choose technologies. A country made, but we recommend. The other aspect we want to address is making informed decisions. So we want that the governments have the information they need to make the best choice possible. And that includes also cost estimations. When you have that, you can actually come up with your investment plan on how to do school connectivity. And the question is always, how do I finance it? So for some countries, yes, they may be able to allocate from national budgets. They may have a universal service fund. For others, they have to go to development partners. And this is where we come in. We don't always look at only borrowing. Can we look at other investment schemes, use the private sector, use bonds, guarantees, and all these mix based on the local context of that country. So in each case, we don't want a one-shoe-fits-all. We want that we advise a country based on what it needs. The other aspect we recognize is many players do not participate in procurement processes because of the quality of the process. So we come in again to make sure that the governments undertake good public procurement processes for school connectivity. But we're not looking at being consultants to these countries. So we also undertake capacity development to make sure that they can actually undertake this process themselves. Because you remove the school, put a post office, put a health center, put any other government or public institution, and you can use the same methodology. So in terms of where we are operating, as you can see, we cut across the world in all continents. Recently, we had a request from Canada, and everyone was like, Canada? But yes. So it's not limited to developing countries, and it's not limited to any one continent. We have 45 countries that have already come on board, and we have 28 that are still in the process. Our target is to go across the world, as I said, connect every school to the internet. So in terms of what has been the impact, you may ask, so what has happened? We don't connect the schools ourselves. The governments in most cases do. In other countries, it's private sector driven, but we are facilitators. One of the most interesting examples or outcomes is from Honduras, where the farmers' community were the ones who were paying for connectivity of the schools. In fact, of late, they've even started doing pastries and selling pastries to sustain the connectivity of their schools. So it's not the traditional approaches, but coming up with context-relevant approaches. In Rwanda, again, there we achieved a 50% discount, because in many countries, you find that there'll be a well-wisher who comes in and facilitates the connectivity of the school. Beautiful pictures are taken, the children are lined up, everyone is happy, you have very good pictures. 1 year down the road, the school is off because they can't pay for connectivity, because they're already struggling to raise those funds. In Rwanda, again, I bring this because a key challenge of why the schools get offline is affordability. They can't afford it. The rates in especially like Africa are very high relative to the income of the people. And the prices in Rwanda were able to be cut by 50% through demand aggregation. I'll give you a case study of, again, where we worked with government from Brazil. So Brazil is one of the countries where, from the side of ITU and industry, they are looked at as one of those places where they seem to have gotten it right in terms of spectrum auctions and in terms of getting their connectivity up. And what we did is come in and work with them to make sure that they know where the schools are, so that when they are then coming up with obligations, they know what they are giving to the providers, and also able to come up with meaningful obligations in their case. We also worked with municipalities. I was very impressed listening to the municipalities earlier. And this collaboration is what we actually push to in other places. As you can see, we came in doing the mapping with the Ministry of Education, undertaking workshops with the local capacity, again, to make sure that they know what they need to do and are able to carry forward, and also conducting pilots, because sometimes you need to test it in a smaller area before you dare to take it out wider. So in terms of collaboration, as you can see, we worked with the regulator, which is Anatel. In all the countries, we work with the two ministries. We work with the Ministry of Education because that's normally the custodian of the schools, and we also work with the ICT part of government. which includes the ministry, which makes the policies, and the regulators of that country. I had in a number of discussions, being a former regulator myself, I was smiling because I know everyone normally complains about the regulatory barriers being a key issue. So as part of Giga, we also want to make sure that the enabling environment is addressed so that at the end of the day, it's not a charity issue, but how do we address the risks that make school connectivity less attractive to investors? We mapped 139,000 schools. But Brazil is big, right? So we're not surprised about that. And in terms of the schools that were found to already now have connectivity in terms of the processes that have gone on, it's 109. We have a real-time connectivity tool that allows then the governments to get real-time data from the schools and know the status of connectivity. So you don't have to go out of the capital city, drive out to the village to establish whether the connectivity is up and running and what speeds are there. Or if it's down, why is it down? Because then you have a dashboard that helps you monitor that. And that real-time monitoring tool has been installed in 87,000 schools within Brazil. So that map that you see is the Giga map. We have a map like that for all countries with which we're working. The green dots means that the schools are connected. Red dots means the schools are not connected. Blue dots are those ones where we don't know, most likely because we don't have an agreement with that country. So Giga has also been recognized along the years. So we are not a very young initiative, but we're running faster of late. The most recent recognition we have was the Pact for the Future's Global Digital Compact, which, as part of its commitment, sought to build onto what Giga has done. We took this as a recognition that Giga is doing something good, and it has been seen as a model to build on to connect all schools and all hospitals now. So what is our call? Listening to all the presentations today, we tend to focus on we need to get that infrastructure in. I experienced the submarine cutting of the cables that was mentioned earlier. So I know the importance of resilience, the importance of affordability, the importance of security, and now everyone is crying for AI. But is it just connectivity for the sake of it? Or do we need to be purposeful on what we're doing? How do we make sure that when we talk multi-stakeholder approach to digital transformation, we are indeed walking the talk and have all parties on board in that respect? What are some of the things you can do? I know we don't like always talking about charity, but how do you integrate these social needs into your development plans? How do you turn them into vanguard opportunities where you're investing? How do you make sure that you inform us or inform government to make the best decisions so that there's a win-win in terms of investment, one that drives and focuses the investment to go where it is and cover everybody? That way we won't look at some parts being less viable than the others. How can we address the right incentives to get them there? How can we bring the collaboration? A lot of the players in this session are wholesale players, undersea cables. One of the key constraints is affordability, and everyone blames the other. No, it's the upstream provider. No, it's the submarine cable that are giving us capacity or terms that are unfavorable. So how can we have a value pipe that supports the schools at the end of the day, that ensures that these governments are able to provide connectivity in a sustainable manner to not only schools, but also health facilities? And how can we come up with packages? In some countries, for example, they've come up with not the usual packages, but a package special for schools that addresses the sharing of capacity or brings the bulk. Having been in Africa, I was part of the development of the Ubuntu Alliance that brought together national research and education networks. How can such an arrangement be made for other schools and education facilities across the different continents in the region? And then as Giga, we are always looking for partners. We do not claim ITU or UNICEF has all the answers. We need data to be able to bring up the best tools. So how can you share with us your data? How can we leverage the expertise that you have to make sure that governments have the best tools to plan for school connectivity? How do you help us make sure that even the services, the infrastructure mapping we provide, the school mapping that we provide, and all these other connectivity credit platforms that we have developed, how do you support us to make sure that those are actually fit for purpose, not theoretical, and facilitate investment rather than hinder investment? How do you inform the policy and regulatory advice that we give governments? We depend on you to make them real, to make them relevant, to make them investment friendly. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you to the organizers for giving us this chance to be a part of this great event.